Good morning, students! Here I am again, your teacher in Art 4, Teacher Eileen. Today, we are discussing a new topic. It talks about textile traditions as element of art. Again, textile traditions as element of art with a learning target. Differentiate textile traditions in other Asian countries like China, India, Japan, Indonesia, and in the Philippines. Second, research basic description of tie-dye art in the Philippines. Are you ready? Let's begin. Textile traditions contribute greatly to the cultures not only in the Philippines but around the world. Tribes in the Philippines have their own distinct clothing that represents and distinguishes their cultures from one another. These are the different tribal national costumes of different tribes of the Philippines. Observe the quality of their fabrics. And today's lesson, we will know the different textile traditions and the different cultural tribes of the Philippines and around the world. Let's start. There are brightly colored textile because manufacturers have used dyes to give each textile its hue. Let's talk about dye. Dye is a substance used to color materials. Most dyes nowadays are synthetic or chemically produced, but there are natural dyes that can be derived from plants such as berries, bark, leaves, wood, and even fungi. This is an example of a tie-dye t-shirt. There are many types of dyes for different uses. Here is the most common uses of textile dye. First, dye for fabric. This is an example. Second, food coloring. This is an example of a product used to color the food. Third, the leather dye. Here are the different colors of leather. Third, oxidation dyes for hair coloring, just like this. And fifth, the solvent dyes for wood and waxes. Here are the different colors of wood coloring. These are the different uses of textile dye. Let's talk about the tie-dye in the Philippines. In Unit 1, you learned about the tinalak by the Tibori tribe. You learned that the Tibori women believed that the tinalak fabric was taught by their god in their dreams, hence dream weaving. The tinalak is woven with intricate designs through the use of ikat or tie-dye. They use tie-dye to create their patterns by using the coarse abaca threads to tie down the patterns. This is an important process because the tied-down area of the woven fabric resists the dye, so only specific areas can be exposed to dyes. It uses three traditional colors such as black, red, and white. It represents some of the tribe's beliefs. Black represents their hardships, red symbolizes bravery and commitment, and white is for purity. This time, I will introduce to you one of the elements of color, value or tone. In art, value or tone refers to the degree of lightness or darkness of an area. It can vary from the brightest white light to the deepest black shadows. It can denote the major planes of an object. Value can be achieved by adding either black or white to a particular color. For instance, if you want to get a dark red color, add enough black to achieve the darkness you desire. If you wish to create a pale pinkish color, you can add more white to a red color. This creates a different value to the red color. This concept applies to all color. In Unit 1, you learn about how repetition is used in ethnic designs. This time, let's have a review about repetition. Repeated elements in art which create repeated pattern. That is repetition in art. Look at the picture above. This native weaving has many elements that are repeated to create a pattern. What are the elements of art employed in this weaving? What colors are repeated? What do you think is the motif? Those are the questions that describe what repetition is. Different races, cultures, and tribes are scattered around the world. Clothing tradition is important in any part of the world because it gives a sense of distinction and pride that each country holds. Earlier, we talked about the textile traditions of the Philippines. At this juncture, we talk about the textile traditions around the world. First, China. Silk production, characteristic of China's earliest civilization, has been an enduring feature of Chinese tradition and a distinctive aspect of China's interaction with other cultures. From China's Neolithic era, hemp and rami were cultivated and woven into textile for clothing and other uses. Furthermore, wool textile played a minor role associated with border peoples of the north and west. Cotton cultivation began at least by the 8th century, by the Ming Dynasty on 1368 to 1644. It had become an industry to rival silk production. Though silk retained its role as a luxury fabric and a symbol of Chinese culture, cotton cloth ultimately became a widespread material and an economic staple. This is an example of a textile wool in China. Next up, India. India has been well known for textiles since very ancient times. The origin of Indian textile can be traced to the Indus Valley civilization as early as 5th millennium BC. The people of that civilization used homespun cotton for weaving their garments and used indigo to color the fabric. Textile has always played an important in trade and business here in India, Rome, China, and Egypt. Everywhere traces have been found of Indian textiles. Still, we can say that India is textile hub, and it has thousands of clusters which beautifully weave and give is the most beautiful fabrics which mesmerize our eyes. Moreover, Kadhi. Kadhi India is a hand-spun, hand-woven natural fiber cloth, also known as Kadar during British era. Depict purely India, or one say it's a Swadeshi fabric. Fibers are spun into yarn on a spinning wheel called a charka. It is a versatile fabric, cool in summer and warm in winter. This is a Kadhi from India. Next up, Japan. textiles have long played an important role in Japanese life. Japanese weaver and dyers use silk, hemp, rami, cotton, and other fibers and range of waves and decorative treatments to produce textile of distinctive design and exceptional aesthetic merit. Furthermore, these textiles were put to many different uses: for clothing of both commoners and elites, for banners, hangings, and other materials produced for use in temples, for theatrical costumes, and for cushion covers, curtains, and other domestic uses. As with many other Japanese arts, Japanese textile historically have developed through an interaction of external influences and indigenous techniques and design choices, and a tendency to develop both technology and aesthetics to a high degree of refinement. This is the Japan's textile. We'll go to Indonesia. Indonesia embraces 13,667 islands stretching from the Malay Peninsula to Australia. It is peopled by more than 300 tribal and ethnic groups. Textiles play an integral role in most of these societies, so this exhibition is but a small sampling of their great variety. In addition, the textile in this exhibition are primarily garments, but they also have significance as status symbols and as ritual objects. To your right on the south wall are songket textile, richly brocaded with gold supplementary wefts. Traditional Sumatran and Balinese women's sarongs worn for festivals and weddings are valued for the gold or silver woven into them and form part of a woman's wealth. This is an example of a cloth textile in Indonesia. Since we discussed already the different textile traditions in the different cultural tribes of the Philippines and around the world, let's have an activity. All you have to do is research tie-dye procedure and traditions and answer the following questions below. In a one whole sheet of paper, explain these following questions. Number 1. Summarize the process of tie-dye. Number 2. How is the tie-dye relevant in processing the culture of the Tibori tribe? Last but not the least, number 3, what should be done to create a darker value of color? Since we finished tackling the different textile traditions, I know that you can answer this wisely. You can answer right away. Hopefully, you learn about the different textile traditions of the Philippines and around the world. I am your teacher, Teacher Eileen, saying thank you for listening and goodbye!